people to join. You may.
Good afternoon.
Hello. It's just the two of us.
Okay.
That's what give it a few minutes. We'll start at 6:15.
Okay.
Give it a few minutes. We're just waiting for a few more people to join.
How you doing, Jonathan?
Hi, how are you?
Very good, good, good. Hey, thanks for coming. Thanks for tonight. We're just waiting for a few more people to join, and we'll proceed with that. Okay.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening. I'm just going to give it one more minute, and we're going to just proceed. All right. All right. All right. All right. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining the Economic Development Committee meeting. We're a little light this evening, but a few members called me. One of them came down with COVID, so they're homesick, and we have someone, Jonathan, from the Brooklyn Chamber of Commerce, is going to speak to us. Celine, I know you're on the line also, and also I see a number with 718 ending in 00. Just want to know who that was, by any chance.
Hi, it's Jonathan Berman. I'm also on video and on the phone. This way I can walk around.
Okay, thank you, Jonathan. And also we have Mr. Allison who joined just now also. Good evening, Mr. Allison.
Hi, good afternoon. Sorry for the lack of video. I'm actually in the move home, but I definitely want to join in so be connected.
Okay. Yeah, I know during this times it's hard. People have life continues, and I'm just getting home from work myself, so I was running a little bit late. Do we have any more news about the Economic Development Committee at the present moment? No. I see that the governor, as of February 14th, has decided to do 25% for open restaurants, open dining. There's supposed to be hopefully some money coming through. On the last community board meeting, Chuck Schumer addressed the committee, the council, the community board, sorry. And I'm just waiting to see what's going on. I know a lot of businesses are struggling, and we had talked about also doing a walk through the neighborhood, through the corridors. Unfortunately, we had the one good weekend, and after that, the weather was bad, and indoor dining was closed, so we didn't proceed with that. Tonight, we have Mr. Jonathan from Brooklyn Chamber of Commerce that is going to do a presentation for us. So I know it's a little light tonight, but I'd love to hear from him, and we'll do a little presentation. And I want to say thank you again, Jonathan. You can proceed.
Thank you. All right. So let me set up. All right. So good evening, everyone. How are you doing? I hope everyone's doing well. But just real quick, I'm Jonathan Marable from the Brooklyn Chamber of Commerce, and I'm here on their behalf as part of our efforts to conduct outreach to community boards and community-based organizations who have strong ties to the community. And basically, my intention tonight is to share what the Brooklyn Chamber of Commerce has been doing thus far, introduce you to the New York City Small Business Resource Network, which you see here, and also just, take proactive steps towards making myself and the chamber as a whole more accessible, more readily accessible to businesses and to organizations that interact with businesses. Now, let's see. As you all know, it's no secret that our businesses are having a pretty tough time. You see the headline there saying that nearly 3,000 small businesses had closed for good in the past 4 months. That headline's from July. And so, these are the sorts of things that we're running into. Businesses are, having to close down. You have people being forced to stay inside, and that's having a devastating effect on all small businesses. Now, just so you know, it's probably no secret that, before the pandemic, minority and or women-owned businesses were already hurting. They received fewer resources and were forced in general to do less, do more with even less than their white counterparts. This pandemic, as you probably know, has made this even worse. In fact, as you see, according to a report that New York City Comptroller Scott Stringer put out back in July, again, 85% of minority and women-owned businesses that they surveyed said they could not survive for the next 6 months. Also, across the board, brick and mortar stores have been forced to, have been doing pretty badly. Sales have dropped. People have been forced to stay indoors, and businesses that usually did transactions in person have been forced to transition to being online. That puts them up against, of course, the Amazons and the big box stores, and an already crowded but increasingly more crowded online presence that other businesses are having. Now, basically, we knew that businesses needed help in general. And we figured the best way to know what kind of help was to actually go to them and ask them what they needed. So one of the steps we took was to conduct a survey. As you see from a survey we conducted again in July, the 3 most important needs were grants, rent relief, and access to personal protective equipment so that businesses could conduct business safely. But we didn't feel like things needed to stop there. And this was a common sort of sentiment among all of the chambers of commerce, that is, the borough chambers of commerce. So we dispersed loans, We gave out grants to cover the costs of PPE and heaters and things of that nature. We also did tours as well. We did listening tours to various corridors throughout Brooklyn, and also did outreach via Chamber on the Go, just so we can really get a flavor of what's happening on the ground. Now, just to give a little bit of a background, in terms of where things began. We began towards the beginning of the pandemic by hosting small business roundtables, 10 to 15 businesses in April. And by May, we shifted our organization's priorities and repurposed staff towards addressing the small business needs that were expressed by those businesses in that roundtable. From that, we determined there were two crucial parts that we needed to take on in terms of our strategy. First was to convene small business leadership, namely associations and other organizations that have worked together to bring small businesses together and share resources and basically support one another. And I know that Celine has been on a few of them. So since April, we've hosted weekly calls, and this has been an ongoing effort that we continue to maintain as we continue forward. The second part is meeting businesses on the ground. So that's where the walkthroughs come through. We went to businesses, we visited businesses. It's more than just photo ops. We actually listened to the concerns that businesses expressed to us and offered our resources to help. To date, our president and CEO, Randy Piers, has conducted actually 29 commercial corridor visits. I know it says 24 there. That's as of December 2020. This is part of a slide that was used for our annual meeting that took place in December. As mentioned, these visits included local neighborhood and civic business leaders, as well as our staff. And the purpose of the visits were really to just listen. And, you know, our strengthen relationships with bids and merchant groups that actually interact with businesses and can actually let us know what's happening and tell us how we can improve the services that we provide. As mentioned a little bit earlier, there's other sorts of activities, other sorts of things that we did besides the corridor visits. We served, that's also another lower number from December. We've served, I would say, about 1,600 businesses thus far. It's far more than 500,000 units of PPE delivered. There's recovery loans that were dispersed, with 60% of those going towards MWBs. We also had deep cleanings as well. And of course, for those deep cleanings, we actually contracted Brooklyn-based cleaning businesses. So basically, just to give a sense of what, or I'll go to this and then go into how our program, the New York City Small Business Resource Network, came about. There's other sorts of partnerships that we had developed first with Fiserv, and part of that partnership resulted in $10,000 grants. Now, sure, these are what you see here is Brown Butter, Brooklyn Tea, Daddy Greens. Those were recipients from the first round of grants. There are actually some recipients on Nostrand Avenue, in fact, that got the second round of grants. You see images from tours that were taken in parts that are actually outside of CB8, I know, but just to give you a sense of what our sort of spread within CB8 is, we have this map, for example, that shows the spread of businesses that we've engaged with, either via just going to the business, talking to them, that's small businesses engaged. And then there's businesses that are already in our system based on them filling out the form and us working with businesses one-on-one. Those are the full program participants. And in terms of the numbers thus far, the zip codes that overlap with Community Board 8, you see 299 there, but that's as of earlier this month. We're over 300 now. And you see the basically the poster with Brooklyn T. That's just to give a sense of what sort of services we've provided through the New York City Small Business Resource Network, of which I'm a part of. And you see there's a QR code as well. I'll give the link later. Let's see. So just to give you a sense of the New York City Small Business Resource Network, this is actually the outcropping of something that was established before called the SBRI, which is like Small Business Rapid Response Initiative, that was started way earlier in the pandemic and was focused just on Brooklyn, but then we expanded citywide, and it became the New York City Small Business Resource Network, which actually officially launched in October. And just to give a sense of our mission, as you see, it's to save as many small businesses as possible, as fast as possible, and to put as many New Yorkers back to work as soon as possible. That said, there's over 230,000 businesses in New York City, small businesses in New York City. Our sort of aim was to help at least 20,000. I know that's a lot, with 5,000 of those being for Brooklyn, and with the majority of them being minority and or women-owned businesses. So as you see, that's a pretty large goal, but hopefully with your help, we'll be able to reach that and help just as many businesses as possible survive. Because as you know, we're in pretty bad shape, just as an economy. Now, you may or may not be familiar, but how the New York City Small Business Resource Network works is that once you submit a form, you basically get connected one-on-one with a specialist, a business recovery specialist such as myself, and you'll get connected to resources regarding financing, whether it be financial coaching or information about grants or loans that are out there. There's also marketing expertise. We've developed networks with, whether it be institutions like Harvard University or business-focused nonprofits or just for-profit organizations that specialize in marketing. There's also technology support in the form of, let's say, website help. For those that need to switch up their point of sale system, we have connections with people who help with that, and a wide variety of items on that. There's also legal counsel, not necessarily representation, but consultation to help you figure out how to navigate, let's say, for example, contracts, leases rather, with your landlord. Because as you know, landlords are giving businesses a hard time nowadays, especially since they're not able to keep up with the rent. We can even help with businesses that are trying to figure out the best sort of legal designation, for example, or legal structure. So there's a number of different areas that we can provide help with for legal counsel. There's also mentoring resources as well. So just giving advice to businesses, whether they're startups, like they just started during the pandemic, all the way up to ones that have been around for decades. So all of that, most importantly, is for free, right? And there's the website. It's www.smallbiz.nyc. That's www.sm as in Mary, A as in Alice, L as in Larry, L as in Larry, B as in ball, I as in igloo, Z as in zebra, .nyc. That will direct you to our information page, but then there's a form that you fill out that takes 2 to 5 minutes. And that's how you'll get connected and put into our system. And at that point, one of the small business resource recovery specialists will contact you directly. Just to give a sense of who's involved in terms of entities. This particular resource network came as a result of a public-private partnership. So the public entities, as you see here, you have New York City Economic Development Corporation, so that's EDC, and there's also New York City Small Business Services. Those are public sector participants that have helped bring resources in. Then there's partners from the private sector, namely the Peterson Foundation and the Partnership Fund for New York City. And together, they created the Small Business Resource Network. Then you have the different chambers of commerce representing businesses from the different boroughs. We've all collaborated and come together to create this as well and partake in this so that businesses can be supported no matter where they are in New York City. So feel free to share this, not just with people here in Brooklyn, but even people in other parts of the city as well. That said, I'm here to answer any sort of questions people might have. I'll put my information, my contact information in the chat, and I ultimately hope that this was of help. And I hope that this presentation was at least somewhat informative. Also, just to give you a sense of really what I hope happens beyond this point is that Community Board 8, will communicate heavily with the Brooklyn Chamber of Commerce to be able to let us know what's happening on the ground. And we'll also be able to serve as a resource that you can come to at any time for any of your business needs. That said, thank you for your time.
I thank you very much, and I thank you for the services that you provide for the community and citywide as well. Make sure you share the information in the chat. I look forward to working and talking with you and referring this to businesses in the community as well. Is there anybody online? Oh, I'd like to welcome Chairwoman Ms. Titus to the meeting. And if anybody has any questions, feel free to raise your hand or just let me know if you have any questions that you have about this program.
Hey, Jonathan, how are you?
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. I know we do a lot of work together over on the Avenue corridor.
Mhm.
I'm just wondering if you are also open to possibly doing some work on some other corridors, like maybe Kingston as maybe a point of initial small business resource contact, because as you know, we're all like sometimes running a little thin on time, what we actually can do, but as it being what seems to be what you do. If you haven't done it already, would you be willing to help with that?
Oh, absolutely. So just to give a little bit of background in terms of what's happening on our end, in terms of outreach, uh, right now, because it's winter and also because of COVID, we've been doing a lot of things, you know, kind of behind computer screens or like during on phone. We've been doing some outreach in person, but we plan on ramping that up drastically in these next few months, especially as we get closer into the spring and the summer. And so, we actually have lists of corridors that we're going to visit, or at least I established a list of corridors that I'm going to visit. And I know that Kingston Avenue is one. I've already made inroads with Miss Charles, from Impact Brooklyn. We're going to go on Washington. Uh, I've already made inroads with people in Franklin. I know people who helped with Vanderbilt from my previous job, who carried that over, and I'll be able to work with them on what they're hoping to do in the future. Uh, Definitely need to hit up Kingston, and that might even bring me a little bit into CB9 as well, because I know the corridor, there's a portion of it in CB8, and then there's a whole bunch in CB9. I'm also planning on doing Utica Avenue as well. There's a lot of different corridors within CB8, but yeah, basically, long story short, I'm going to be doing more on other corridors as well. I know I've been spending a lot of time and energy with Nostrand Avenue, but I also will be doing a lot more with other corridors as well.
Hey, thank you, Jonathan. Also, you said that the corridors that you're focusing on right now was Kingston Avenue and Washington.
Uh, so,
I don't
so
know if you
probably,
guys could hear me, but I'm having an issue hearing you guys. Oh, I don't know
oh,
what's going on. I'm sorry.
okay. So basically, he asked essentially what corridors I'm going to be focusing on next. Um, so I can do Kingston. Um, I'm going to be doing Washington and Franklin next. Um, in terms of the others, because there's a lot of them, I'm going to be mapping that out as I go. And if there are contacts that you have on those corridors that you could send my way, that would be fantastic, because I find, I've gone out many a times just cold, but it's definitely much better interacting with businesses if there are people that they know ahead of time who can kind of provide a warm introduction. So, if there are people that you know on specific corridors that would be willing to do a walkthrough with me as I go out, that would be fantastic. It's also pretty exciting that you already said that you're planning on doing these walkthroughs as well. And if it's all right with you, I'd love to join.
Yeah, let's put that together. Also, I do have a question from our chairwoman, Ms. Titus. That's her hand raised, so I want to acknowledge and let her ask a question.
Thank you, Mr. Saunders. I wanted to ask Mr. Marable, a former member of the Land Use Committee for Council Member Cumbo. Good to see you back in your new role.
It's good to see you.
I strongly recommend that we take a close look at the Open Streets program for the commercial corridors across CB8, where we don't have select bus service. We would need merchant associations to step into that void and be a sponsor for the Open Streets, where we could replicate what's been done in the in the western section of the district along Prospect Heights on Vanderbilt, where there was no select bus service, and DOT didn't have a problem with closing the streets on Friday evenings, Saturday and Sunday noon to 11, and Monday holidays. The people who did that project were worn out by the end of the fall, and they promised themselves they would never do it again unless they found a way to hire people through an agency that would do the payments of about $25 an hour and the paperwork that goes along with paying people to do work for you. So at this point in time, we have an opportunity through the discretionary contract funding cycle that is open until February 16th. Okay, right away, eyebrows go up. It's late. It's already the 9th, but might as well say the 10th. 6 days couldn't happen. We need to look at this for next year, because quite honestly, it may be likely that we still have issues with a communicable virus floating around in the community, and we wouldn't be able to do 100% capacity indoors over the warmer months or the winter months. So if your function with your new work here, Small Business Network, can help the merchants along the various commercial strips to form individual merchant associations that we could get ready for next year, that would be great. Even if COVID is completely gone by next year, we would still need to have a capability for these individual strips and their merchant cliques to work together through organizations like yours to accept funding that President Biden is preparing to send down the track. So my question to you really is, with your legal counsel, will you help the merchants on the individual strips form their individual merchant associations, prepare the forms for them, and then they could take it from there and do the filings and get that going at least? Is that possible?
Well, in terms of the legal support, that tends to be the case. I do know that they can work on helping with designations in terms of filling out the paperwork for people. I know that Vols sometimes does those sorts of things with drafting contracts and things of that nature. But that's something that I can definitely take back and should take back to the chamber in terms of having a team of people helping to establish, like, formulate the organizations on the different corridors who can help with merchant organizing. I mean, I know, of course, like, let's say Vanderbilt, even though they don't have a merchant association, PHNDC, Prospect Heights Neighborhood Development Corporation, was very instrumental in making open streets happen.
They did it. They did the work.
But it was a lot.
Like I said, they promised themselves. It was just really backbreaking. They had 50 volunteers that would set up and take down the traffic barriers, metal French barriers that DOT provided, and they needed to marshal those things every day. So it was an hour and a half of setup, and then an hour and a half of takedown on the days that I outlined. It seems simple enough to put some metrics to that and figure out how much you would need through discretionary funding next year, not this year, next year, to get that done, if it's possible. And then on top of that, check with Cultural Affairs to fund some wandering minstrel groups to give music in the public square, so to speak. So those are the things I wanted to share this evening. I've discussed it with Chair Saunders, and the timeline is likely too short this year to get the discretionary funding. But who knows about other sources of funding? But we need the merchant groups to be front and center.
Yeah, and I mean, I second that. Like, it's an exciting thing that they're doing with the open culture program to facilitate, let's say, those sorts of performances. It's like the one-off sort of situations on corridors or wherever. But yeah, I think that would definitely be a good thing. And also, in terms of what the chamber has as well, there is something they have, like a staffing service, like Good Help staffing services. So we could even support in that way of basically hiring help for sorts of events that were set up. So it's not just the people of the organization, but people they can bring on to support efforts. So that's cool too. Let's continue that talk though. Let's definitely continue that.
When you say hire, it's a hiring service, but we would still have to pay them though, correct?
Well, yeah. I mean, the thing is, in terms of the service that it is, it's basically designed to vet candidates and basically uh, share listings. In terms of funding to pay those employees, uh, that could be a different sort of discussion in terms of adequate funding streams for that. That's something that once we get there, we can discuss that. I do think first to establish the organizations and figure out who's going to run those organizations.
Um, I have another question in regard to like the select bus service corridors. We tend to be the busiest ones that need to be a part of the open streets program, and yet we're stuck because of the bus. Is there any way that there can be a conversation with DOT where they would consider rerouting the bus for just the weekends or something? Is that realistic? Is that unrealistic? If we can get the numbers to actually make this a conversation.
Hi, I'm Michelle George, District Manager of Community Board 8. We can definitely have the conversation with DOT and see what they suggest. Yeah, we can definitely do that.
Yeah.
Okay. What's your name again?
Michelle
Michelle.
George.
Okay. I'm gonna write that down.
And on our end, even like if I guess this is something that can be brought up in the Brooklyn bids meeting to see if there's other corridors that would be interested in doing this, because maybe it's something that the chamber could rally behind efforts like that. Like at this particular time, we're going to uh, pause select bus service so that restaurants and establishments on this corridor can have open streets, and then resume, let's say, a little later, so that it's so that corridors that are thriving corridors but also happen to have SBS, like select bus service on their streets, can also benefit from this program that has been a boon to so many corridors in the city.
And then
Well,
another question. Well, never mind. That don't got to do with you.
One second, Ms. Tyson.
unfortunately, Nostrand Avenue doesn't have a bid. The only bid in Community Board 8 is Flatbush Avenue.
We're getting there. We're getting there. We're getting there. Don't count me out.
And-
Don't count me out.
And I also got to stress like the importance of making sure that things stay, because I know that let's say Kingston Avenue used to have a merchants association. I don't know if they're active at this moment, but they used to, right? Is that right?
I guess we're not sure right now, but we can, when we do our walkthrough, we can definitely find out. But I also have another question, which has a hand raised from my chair, Ms. Titus. Titus, you want to ask the question?
Thank you, Mr. Saunders. I wanted to just suggest to the business owners like Celine that the forms to form your own merchant association are available on the New York State website. So as you meet with your colleagues, you want to take a look at that, maybe start filling in some draft forms and have them available for the program legal counsel through New York City Small Business Resource Network. That's one thing. The other thing is that we should be looking at commercial strips that don't have select bus service. We should be looking at, according to the mayor recently, I think it was last week, he said that he was willing, he's pushing for restaurants to be able to use a sidewalk where they don't have to get the sidewalk license. I don't know how soon that's going to happen or how long it would last, but it's something that we looked at last year. We talked about the restaurants being able to use the sidewalks in front of businesses that close early, but that would have to be a deal between those two businesses and those two landowners to use that sidewalk when the regular business during the day is closed and the restaurant business wants to use that sidewalk at night. You have to work something out on paper. But the mayors said that they would be looking at that very closely, and that would be one of the ways that they could continue to have capacity utilization for the restaurants while COVID is still a problem. Okay.
Mr. Marable, I think this presentation was really good. And I would like to invite you to another meeting when attendance is greater. So I'll work with Brian. If you can come back maybe next month, we'll reach out to the businesses in the district, have them log on to a meeting next month. Come, this information was great. They need to have it.
Sounds good to me.
We will try to coordinate something for next month. Okay, Brian?
Yes, and I'm looking forward to communicating with you more often, and with Celine and also Mr. Allison. I thank you for your time, and look forward for addressing another committee meeting with a little bit more participants. And thank you very much. And that's all I can say right now.
Thank you. I'll take down my screen. Let's see.
Any other questions? Okay.
All right, Kamani and Selena, I'll reach out to you, Ms. Titus, and I'll look forward to working. Thank you, everyone, for your time. I know that the meeting is a little light, but we could do a lot. We could do a lot with the few people that we do have and build it. So I look forward to working with Selene, Ms. Titus, Ms. George, and Mr. Allison, and just make it happen. And Jonathan, with you as well, as far as walking the corridors. And everyone have a safe day, have a great night, and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you all for coming. Good night. Thank you.
Thank you.